How many are afraid of technology? You're not allowed to answer yes on that. I love technology. I have a very fancy earpiece on right now. And before we started this morning, Mr. Fritz said, "Are your batteries good?" And I said, "Yeah, they're full charge. I'm good to go." I turned my mic off so that I would be ready to go. Just as Mr. Lazari was introducing me, I looked down at the belt pack and it's flashing red. That's how things work. How many know you need to be flexible? That's what they're doing in the back for me right now. Running around trying to find 2 AA batteries. Here's where we're going to go this morning. My name is David Cahoot. I work for an organization called Talk is Cheap. A lot of the high school teachers heard me speak this last year when I spoke to the whole student body, and that afforded me the opportunity to be here this morning. If you're wondering why I'm not up there, where's John DePietro? Hurry up. Now, I'm not going to get you up and sing with me. Just, where are you, John? I got John DePietro, who knew me from grade school, and then Nick Amstutz, who right now is trying to save my butt by getting me batteries, knew me in high school, and they can both tell you the same thing. There's no way that Cahoot was going to stand behind that podium for 45 minutes and give a speech. So those of you linear people who don't like when people like me walk around and they make you nervous, I'm sorry, but the bottom line is this. When I say I'm standing in the presence of greatness, it's not just yours or mine. It's the kids we serve. And because my primary audience is student, I walk around a lot. This helps that ADD kid or ADH kid like me focus. Because if this was a window room and there were dust particles floating, we'd have people staring at the dust particles right now, just like I did when I was a kid, wondering, is there any way to catch that? My job this morning is to be your pep rally speaker. And I will confess to you this morning that when I was asked to give this speech, I misunderstood. I thought what I was doing is coming here to speak just to the high school. So a few weeks after it sunk in, I called Mr. Saxon and said, "Am I talking to just high school staff, or am I talking to the whole district?" And he starts laughing and says, "Coach, you're speaking to the whole district." And then I thought about calling Mr. Lazari back on, no, you don't want me to do that. Because you know what? If you don't know me, and a lot of you don't, I'm going to freak you out. So as we work through this process together, I'm going to go up front, grab a little remote. Did we do any good on the batteries? I don't see anybody yet who have it. So we'll keep walking around with this. Welcome, as it says, to the school year. Now, that's my favorite question. So would you mind telling me again, what's it read? I'm standing in the presence of greatness. My goal this year, 2009-2010, is to have every student at every grade get asked that question repeatedly throughout the year. Practice makes permanent. Doesn't make perfect, because if you practice it wrong, you do it wrong. So it makes perfect. No, it makes permanent. And when I was a young man going to St. Charles, I had a problem. And the problem is this. I couldn't focus. And the teachers and the nuns tried as hard as they could to help David track on what they were trying to get me to understand. And it became very frustrating. And the reason it became frustrating is because they were not communicating the way I communicated. Now, I had a couple of nuns who got me. One's name was Sister Imelda. She was the kindest soul next to the Virgin Mary. I don't think there was a nicer lady. But she had a button. And that button was, if you disrespected Mother Mary during the month of May, you were going to pay. And because I really wasn't too focused yet on the whole Mother Mary thing, in May, I would come into the room and I'd start screwing around, and before I knew it, Sister Imelda would have a ruler longer than me and come chasing after me. And I'm thinking to myself, why is this lady so bent out of shape? And now as an adult, I know. Because if you don't stand for something, you don't fall for anything. And she believed in what she believed. And I'm wondering in a group like this, if there's some out here wondering, how did I get into education? And all of a sudden it became more of an adult babysitting opportunity than anything as far as making a difference. We have kids today who don't have good parenting at home. And now they want us to be their parent. I don't think we signed on for that. But you know what? We don't have an option. We get a few hours a day with these young minds in hopes that maybe they'll believe what we're telling them. So I want to go back, probably back to the most important 5 elements of a relationship. How do we do, Mr. Amstutz? All right, let's see if we can trade this off. 5 elements in a relationship. The first element is... Anybody? Love. Let's see if I can keep walking and talking. Hold on there, kids. Good? Oh boy. Love is the first element. The second element is trust. Third element is respect. Fourth element is understanding. And this is a new one. This is an element I threw in, my opinion, based on my last 20 years of working with kids. The last element is forgiveness. I think we're in an environment today, society speaking, that we hold grudges, and instead of becoming better, we become bitter. How many would head nod and agree with that? And we actually have kids now that we should be imparting information to and excited to have in our classroom, but instead we're shaking our heads going, how come we got them? And the only way I can explain this to you is to go back in time with me and say that when I was a little boy, the oldest of 4, moving here from Cleveland, Ohio in 1971, my mom and dad did everything humanly known to man to try to keep David dialed in. And it was really for naught. They couldn't do anything, including Adderall or Ritalin, to keep me focused. Detentions here, suspensions there, whoopings whenever. Didn't work because I had issues. And one of them was number 2. I didn't know who I could and couldn't trust. And then as I started getting burned by people that I thought I could trust, something else happened. I got bitter. And I can assure you, in a room full of adults like this, if I were to make you have to take off your I'm cool mask, we'd be blown away at some of the people in this room. I'm a visual learner. I love visuals. It helps me track. The first visual I want to use this morning is a video clip that I was given. How many get forwards on your email? Okay, how many hate forwards on your email? How many delete the forwards without even seeing who they're from or what they're about? Yes. So I have a standing agreement. If you think it's that impactful that it's going to affect how I speak and teach, then you better delete the forward part and just write, Kahoot, this is awesome, check it out. For 3 weeks, this email sat in my in bin because it was from a very good friend of mine, but I didn't want to open it. Thank God, before I clicked delete, I opened it. Remember, I'm speaking on the 5th point. Forgiveness. You're going to watch a son go into a jail and communicate to his father with index cards what's happened in the young man's life. How many would agree that that video is impactful? See, I know where I am this morning. I get it. I'm at Boardman High School. I'm speaking to the staff of Boardman local schools. I have to be careful what I say. I have to be politically correct. I have to be sensitive. I can't offend anybody. I don't want to make anything mad. I want to get invited back. And then I remember something. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about kids. It's about looking in the eyeballs of a little boy or girl who was so screwed up we couldn't begin to fix him if we had all the time and money in the world. And the only job we have was the first element in that love relationship. Love them to death. Yeah, you grade school teachers get a gift we high school teachers don't have. We can't be hugging high school kids. It ain't cool. You give a little kindergarten kid or a first or second grade kid a hug, they're okay. You start hugging seniors in high school, and we're getting phone calls. So we have to go about it completely different. And for me as a speaker in this school or schools I go around all over the area, my job is to get them to trust me. And I don't know if you get this, but if that little balding guy with a patch for bangs coming into a kid's world is like, dude, man, you look funny. And in 53 minutes, I go from, he looks funny to, who is he? And there's a person this morning, my mom and dad, I love you, my bride, I'm so in love with you. But there's a person in this room I have to thank. And her name is Karen Mincher. Because she took a risk when none of you would yet. She oversaw a Bible study that used to meet before school. And I was the guest speaker. Lisa Mariano, Nicole McMasters were juniors in high school. Would you come speak? I don't know if we're allowed. We're allowed. It's before school. Cool. And I got here, and there's Karen, and she was keeping an eye on things. And she saw my heart. And she said, have you ever spoken before in schools? And I said, until today, not really. And she said, how about classes? I said, what do you mean? She goes, I have health classes. We'd love to have you come speak. I'm thinking, I don't know how that'd work. And Karen Mincher said, I think it would work just fine because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think our kids will figure it out pretty quick. I don't know how many years it's been now, Karen, 9, maybe 10. They've been afforded the opportunity to go into health classes twice a year and speak, but everything has blossomed because one person took a chance. When Mr. Lazari read the card this morning that I gave the Boardman football team last year, I wanted them to say it together. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something, and the something I can do, I will not refuse to do. And I wonder as a staff if there's clicks. Because kids see right through it. What a kid needs, what I needed someone to say, David, I don't want to embarrass your son, but a 1.68 grade point average, I don't know if you can see it way down here at the bottom. Dude, I'm thinking you can do better than that. And I'm certain there were some people wondering if David rode a short bus to school and stood out in the rain going, where is everyone? And they realized he's not slow, he just doesn't care. I have a very big heart for our kids in this school and your schools that are LD. Especially the ones who can't defend themselves. I'll never make fun of an LD kid. I have a nephew who still wears diapers and is a tube feed and has never spoke, and he's 14. But when people look at my GPA, they go, well then dude, what was your issue? And I go, oh man, I know exactly what it was. I didn't care. You should see you all staring at me like, wow, what do you do with a kid that doesn't care? I don't know, because Mr. Vakalev tried to beat it out of me. Mrs. Schultz, God bless that woman, would give me white passes when a white pass should have never been given. And my parents, who raised 4 tremendous kids, but had one wild kid that they didn't know what to do with. My mom and dad, being faithful Catholics, did what every good good Catholic did, they got out all the saints. You gotta help them. And I'd come home and I'd see St. Joe standing in a curio sideways. And I'm like, what the heck's wrong with St. Joe? There's all this paper under St. Joe. And I'm like, Mom, why is there paper under St. Joe? And she's like, you'd never understand. And I didn't understand. My senior year, I was sitting in my buddy's bedroom one day smoking pot. I had made poor decisions because I was around poor decision makers. And while Victor and I were getting high, he tried to share spiritual truths with me. And as we're getting high and he's getting into these in-depth spiritual truths, I finally stopped him and said, dude, are you kidding me? And he goes, no, Hoodie, I'm serious. You need to make some spiritual changes in your life. And I went, dude, we're getting high together right now. How does this make you like got it together and I don't? And I swear, he smiled, he goes, because God made weed. I'm like, whoa, this is nothing I've ever heard in church. There was something about that answer that I knew, even I knew, wasn't right. And I took the information Victor was trying to get into my head, and finally I said, dude, are you trying to tell me you're better than me? And I swear, he said, yeah, sure I am. I finally figured things out. And I got up and I gave Victor a certain hand gesture, which did not mean he was number one. And as I turned and left his house, I copped a really bad attitude with Vic, because he was judging me. And I felt like he was just as guilty as I was. As I walked up Forest Garden in Bourbon, Ohio in late 1981, I took a personal inventory, and here's what I decided. I was the only one who didn't get it. Lori and Barbara, 1982, 1983 birth years. Jeffrey. All three of my siblings got it. Just me. It was like, what? What? And finally, I figured the best choice was to go away. Walking up Forest Garden, I decided to go home and get my dad's .22, put the gun in my mouth when I got home, and end my life. I tell kids everywhere I speak, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Please don't quit. You might be the accidental beaker bumper that cures cancer someday. If you're not here to accidentally bump the beaker, we all lose. And the kids look at me like, you're a strange man. Forest Garden is a very important street in my life because it was that day walking up that street that I realized that that was not an option. And I said, God, if you're real, help me. No trees began to sway. There were no cloud formations that looked like angels. I heard no harps. I will tell you this. 3 weeks after I had that head prayer in my mind and did not decide to take my life, I was sitting in a laundromat in Kill Devils Hills, North Carolina. It was a rain day at the beach, much like today is a rain day. And I talked my then girlfriend, now bride, into going to a laundromat because her family was stoked that it was raining. Anybody know why? What do you do when it's raining at the beach? Board games. Cards. We're going to play board games all day. And what I've always tried to explain to you linear people is, don't you get the title, board games? An exciting board game for me is to throw it in the air and shoot it with a shotgun. That would be a sweet board game. So my girlfriend agreed, come on, we'll go to the laundromat. We were so cool. We were almost 18. We bought a 6-pack of beer. We're getting a decent beer buzz on. We're already in the prior section. And kid walked in, he blew by 2 rows of washing machines. I had no idea what we were washing. A sock, a hat, I don't know. But he walked right up to me and he said, God told me to come in here and tell you he loves you. And I started laughing. I said, who told you to come in here? Bobby or Micah? Susie's brothers. And he said, I don't know who they are, but I do know that I was supposed to tell you that. As he turned to leave, I looked at my then girlfriend, now bride, and said, psycho. And he spun back around, and as they affectionately now call it, he got up into my grill. And he said, I was in the Navy. I got addicted to heroin. I got a dishonorable discharge. I was a disgrace to my family and my friends. He said, I decided before the ship got to port that I would take my life. My room buddy intercepted how I was feeling. He invited me to chapel. I'd never been, he said. He said, I went to chapel, and for the first time I heard something I'd never heard before. God loves you just the way you are, but too much to leave you that way. He handed me a piece of paper, he turned and he left. And I thought the dude was out of his flipping mind. And that night when I emptied my pockets, I set the piece of paper down. I had zero interest in what that guy had to say. And as I set the paper down, I saw 3 addresses, and 2 meant nothing to me. The one that changed my life was when I looked down and I saw Glenwood Avenue, Youngstown, Ohio. As I stared at it for a second, I thought, what the heck? Because this kid had no idea where I was from. When I got home from that vacation, I went and looked for that home. I don't know if any of you know who Cosmo DeBartolo is. I did not. But it was his home. At the time, he was a part of an organization called Full Gospel Businessmen. And the reason his name was on that piece of paper is because it was international ministry and he was the president of it. And when I found Cosmo's house, I'm looking at the house and I'm realizing it's on the corner of Glenwood and Forest Garden. The very street I'd walked up 3 weeks earlier and said, God, if you're real, help me. I didn't come here today to preach, and I'm not going to ask for converts. I'm just asking you to believe one thing. Believe in a kid who in their own minds has a huge L across their head. We don't know their story. We don't know what they're going through. But if they trust us, maybe they'll go from a 1.68 grade point average to someday speaking at West Point and having the guidance, whatever the big cheese is there, come up to you afterwards and go, okay, who are you again? David Cahoon. Yeah, no, but you have no education? Oh, I have education. I just don't have any letters after my name. Well, where'd you go to school? My basement. What? Come see my basement and see the racks upon racks of books that I read. Benjamin Franklin said, empty the coins of your purse into your mind, and your mind will fill your purse full of coins. For the last 20-some years, I was in sales selling copiers. And I did this demo every day in front of secretaries who hated the copier guy because he lied to them and said it was a great machine, and 2 weeks after he left, it would break. And it was just enough time for me to get the check and get out and go, good luck, take care, bye-bye. Except I made a promise to those customers, and that was this: you're not a customer, you're a client. And I'm not going to just be here for a couple of years. I'm going to be here until my career is supposed to take a change. And I served for almost 20 years at Valley Office Equipment before I got a full-time call to go into youth ministries and speak. And that's what I call it. It's a ministry. Because I'm going to tell you, we have some hurting kids today. And they need men and women who have no strings attached, no agendas. Just love them where they are and hope we can get them from where they are to where they need to be. Right? That's a note. My junior year is the year that Sue Billette came to Bourbon on a visit. I saw this girl in this cafeteria, and I'm like, holy cow. I said to my buddy, dude, who is that? And they're like, I don't know, man. I never saw her before. And because I'm shy, I got up and walked right over and went, hi, my name's Hootie, what's yours? And she kind of looked at me and she said her name, and I asked her if she was going to school here, and she said, I go to Mooney right now, but I'm contemplating changing because I have to pay for the education. I'm like, oh, I hope you come here. And she did. And while we dated in high school, Mr. Petritich had enough of me. And one day he grabbed me by my shirt. He said, take this note down to the principal. And it read, David Cahoon has an obnoxious and disrespectful attitude towards the school. I caught him with his girlfriend making it in the hall. 6th period. He does this often. Dude, do you blame me? I don't appreciate his smart mouth remarks back to me. He's a conniver and a smart, and there's a line. I would appreciate if you would consult in this matter before I knock some sense into him. Those of you who know me are going, dude, I still want to knock sense into you. There's like, it's not new. See, when you don't like yourself, you then begin to negatively affect everyone else. I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, I hope you have. Hurting people hurt people. And I was on a mission. I wanted to make you teachers miserable. And did a lot of stupid stuff. And there's nothing I can do to change it. As I told Mr. Saxon the other day, the reason I get so emotional when I think about the privilege and the honor to come speak before this faculty is because I get to say thank you for not giving up. Thank you for looking past the stupidity. And thank you for being willing to come work in a school district where some of the kids drive nicer cars than we do. Yeah. Let's not clap. Let's go find some little kids and slap them upside the head and say, stop your whining. You're driving a stinking Hummer, dude. What is wrong with you? This little boy touched my life. You need to, Gary, turn that music down a little bit. I was a volunteer youth pastor, and when I first met this kid, he was in the 7th grade. He aggravated me. I come to find out why he aggravated me. It was very simple. He was just like me. We were at a YMCA sleepover, and it was 10 p.m. until the next morning. And we had some pretty basic rules. Gary, if you're up there, if you could bump the sound down, I'd appreciate it.
Down on my knees again tonight.
Or running it down up there. Even more if you can.
Hoping this prayer will
This little boy fought me tooth and nail on one rule. That rule was this. Don't run. Just don't run. And you know what? At 2 in the morning, sorry guys. At 2 in the morning I had enough. And I used that I'm aggravated adult voice, which I won't shout because some of you are sleeping and I don't want to freak you out. But as he was running away, I went, Chris! Stop running! And he stopped me, looked at me, and he started running backwards. He goes, I can't help, I'm having too much fun. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to brain this kid. We're going to all get kicked out and being roaming the streets of downtown Youngstown at 3 in the morning. Not cool. Not too many more weeks after I met him, they found a small tumor in his chest the size of a football. For those of you who know Chris's story, you know that for much of his 7th and 8th grade year, he fought cancer. He had radiation, chemo, beat cancer, and was bald. Now, I don't like this dude, okay? I'm going to just be real honest and tell you that as soon as I get to heaven, I'll look like Cousin It from the Addams Family. But I got to be honest and say that in the 7th and 8th grade, to be dealing with baldness would be traumatic. And that's why the first time I saw Chris walking up the sidewalk towards youth group, I see his best friend, Nick Rowe, walking with him. And I'm looking at Chris and I'm looking at Nick because they're pretty far off. And as they got closer, I said, dude, I know what's up with you, dude, but Nick, what's up with you, man? And he said, if my best friend is going to be bald, then I'm going to be bald with him. The coolest part of that story is Nick Rowe is a student in Lowville schools. We won't hold that against him. And he shaved his head so his best buddy wouldn't be the only one bald at youth group. Chris did well until his junior year of high school when he got brain cancer. And when it was quite obvious to Chris that he was not going to beat this, he decided to make it his personal mission to do something that would last long after he's gone. He said, the first thing I did, Kahoot, is I picked a song for my funeral. It's called He's My Son by Mark Schultz. The second thing I've done is I put these words, no fears, no regrets, just a future with a promise, in front of my Bible. I've told my parents to lay it in my arms in my casket. I looked at Chris and said, you got this all figured out, huh? He said, yes, sir. He said, I'm going to make a difference that lasts long after I'm gone. He said, and I want to ask you to speak at my funeral. I said, well, okay, I'll do that. And then he got all panicky. He said, well, what if you're gone? You're going to be on vacation. What if I die while you're gone? I said, dude, don't worry about it. I got your back. All this while he's negotiating his funeral plans with me, wearing an eye patch over his right eye because the tumors inside his head were beginning to push the eye out of its socket. Chris was a kid that came to this school district and made a difference. And the day before he died, I called and spoke to his mother, and she said, Christopher's body's slipping into a coma, but I think he can still hear, and I'd love if he'd say something to him. I said, it'd be honored. She put the phone to his ear and said, hey, Chris, it's Kahoot. Dude, I'm sorry. I said, I don't get it, and I don't even begin to understand why. But I promise you, wherever I go and wherever I speak, I will always show your picture, clear tell your story, and ask this question. What's your excuse? Because anybody that has a pulse can make a difference. Told him I loved him, and then as only I could say to Chris, because we had a special relationship, I said, you pig, if you beat me to heaven, I'll see you again. Brother Kyle called the next day and said, Cahoot, Chris passed away this morning. It was Thanksgiving 2000. And went on the back porch and I said, I'm not asking, I'm just wondering, how come him? And I got that answer 5 days later when I did his funeral and saw over 200 and some kids sitting there at his funeral. And I got to ask the question, what are you doing with your life? Because it's going to be over real quick. This morning, I didn't come here to go do a pep rally like the guy Warren Harding did last night. Good for him. He wrote 2 books and he's fun and he dances. I don't dance and I don't write well. I do one thing well, and that is I use things that can communicate to people. And one of my favorite pieces is by a guy named Dr. Jack Robley. He teaches leadership in Orlando, Florida. He's about to emotionally hijack 4 NFL football players. They have no clue what's coming. They're going to run a wilderness trail down at this facility where they paid lots of money to go be trained by the best. What they're supposed to do is run a 9-minute mile, touch a white fence, turn and run the other way, 18 minutes, 2 miles. What they don't know is that there's people filming them. And they've been lied to. They've been told that they're going to run this wilderness trail and that there's going to be animals because they're in the swamps. He says, if I were you, I'd keep your eyes open because you'll have alligators to contend with, snakes, and even possibly a wild boar. We saw one the other day. Now I'm going to let him set the rest of this up, but hear my heart as we go into this last segment. Our job as educators is to try to communicate information that we think is going to make a difference for the people we're communicating it to. Correct? Yes or no? And usually they look at you with an emotional middle finger going, I don't give a flip what you say, right? Yes or no? And we go, we love those kids. Don't we love those kids? And what we have to understand is they may have been emotionally hijacked. They may have been abused. I had an opportunity to speak in one of Mr. Sullivan's schools this past year. And a 7th grade student, after I was finished speaking and telling her over and over for the hour I was there that I'm standing in the presence of went over to her counselor, sat down and said, I'm tired of living with this lie. My dad's been raping me for 3 years. And I didn't know who to tell until today. And I'm telling you because that man said that I was great and that I wasn't an accident, and I wasn't a mistake, and there was a purpose for my life, and I don't want to live like this anymore. I got to make a difference. If I drop dead today, I've made a difference. And I know you have, because I know what you do for a living. Watch as 4 football players think they're running a wilderness trail, having no idea that there's a guy hiding in the bushes.
There's a canal that runs by this trail. Alligator migrate in and out of this canal. Keep your eyes open. And gentlemen, it's sunny outside. Poisonous snakes will be sunning themselves on the trail. Now they won't bother you, but if you see a snake coiled up, steer clear and go around it. They got to the front door, we had our stopwatches ready. Oh guys, sorry, we forgot to tell you. Just yesterday we sighted some wild boar out there. Now these wild pigs, gentlemen, are bigger than you are. They have razor-sharp tusks, and they will attack you unprovoked. So if you encounter a wild boar, you must take appropriate action. But above all else, gentlemen, you must, what everybody, in the face of the storm, complete the mission. What's the mission? Touch the white fence. Ready? Go! So they took off. I want you to get this mental picture because 2 of our team members were hiding in the bushes. Here are these big mammoth men in the NFL jogging down this dirt road in the tropics. They're looking around, looking at the bugs. One of our team members leaned over, grabbed a small bush, and went. which they are not prepared. Let's run the tape, please.
Here comes the bush. Respectful of the clock this morning because we have lots more to do, but I want to make sure we tie this point in because it's very important. They ran all the way back, and Grappa congratulates him. He says, "Did you touch the white fence?" And they said, "No." And he said, "What do you mean, no?" And finally he got one of them to admit, "We heard something." And another guy goes, "Yeah, it was a wild boar." And Grappa says, "Was it really?" And they're like, "Yes, we heard it. We think we saw one." And then they showed him the tape. See, what that clip is to do is tell us that if a kid is training wrong, if they're thinking wrong, if they see themselves poorly, guys and ladies, we don't stand a chance of imparting information into them, do we? Seriously, do we? Let's talk. Got a couple of minutes left. How many have found some students in your career to be difficult? Hurry up, put a hand up. It's okay, it's legal. Frank's not looking. Okay, good. Our job then is to figure out a way to see past where they are and help them get where they need to be. And that's why I do what I do for a living. The reason I came up with the name Talk is Cheap is because I don't want to hear about it, I want to see it. Right? And when I go into a classroom with a group of hostile kids going, "Why is this dude here? I don't want to hear anything he has to say," I've got 50-some minutes to win them. I believe the number one trait of those 5 elements, love, trust, respect, understanding, and forgiveness, is trust. But a close second is forgiveness. We got to forgive kids that are disrespectful. I didn't say we don't punish them if you send them to detention or whatever it is you do, but for the good old days for beat. Anyway, we got to let them know that's unacceptable behavior. How many know who that is? Anyone? His name is Nick Newland. Nick Newland believed me. Nick Newland trained the way I was taught to train people to train. And he wrote me this email. "Hey, Coach, it's been a while since I've called you that. My name is Nick Newland. I played football for Bourbon and graduated in 2007. I was also in jazz band with your son, David. You probably don't remember me." He is correct. How many have a problem with that? Can't remember your kids. Because like I'm at the mall and they're like, "Hey," and I can tell by the way they're looking at me, they know me, and I'm going, "Oh, Lord." I remember seeing you at the season opener in 2008. You gave me your business card and I've held on to it ever since. I remembered your speeches and what they really meant. I knew having your information in my heart could be a great help. So here I am, 2 years later in Bahrain, Afghanistan. I'm a fire team leader of the first team anti-terrorism security team. Every time my team steps off on patrol, heads out on a mission, or simply doing a training exercise, I ask them one question. What am I standing in the presence of? And then they put boldness, greatness. I now truly understand what it means. 20-year-old men who would give their lives for each other. Men who have distinguished themselves by action, not words. I wish I could have all my guys hear you speak, Mr. Pooh. Your words still help me to this day. Listen, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about us. I'm going to do my part. You need to do your part. You need to stop whining about your situation, whatever that is. Because if a kid hears it, we're teaching them to be whiners. Well, you don't understand. No, I don't understand. But I do know this. We live in America. We have running water. How many like toilets? Because I love toilets. I've seen what it's like to go potty in other parts of the world and going, I love toilets. And toilet paper? Oh, this is a gift. I'm thinking in this country, maybe we're just going to have to go so far back to the basics, to the place where we finally realize, stop whining. Start being thankful. And let a kid look at you and go, why are you so happy all the time? And you smile and go, because I get to teach you. And I get to work here. And I get a check. And they'll look at you like, you're a strange human. Nick touched my life with that email. And then I think about the other kids that have touched my life. Not to mention my own two. My bride and I were married in 1985. We'll celebrate 25 years next year. And don't clap for me, clap for her. That is amazing. We have 2 children together. Yeah, she not clap standing up, because this chick has lived through some craziness. Our daughter's 21. She'll be a senior in college this year. Our son, David Michael, just graduated. I was on a holding pattern for 7 years. I sat in the back of this auditorium one day and heard a speaker give a talk. And I wanted so desperately to go and do that same thing. And I knew I was supposed to wait until my family was gone. Some of us have put our career before people. And it's the biggest mistake you'll ever make. You'll never get this time back. If you come to the Cahoot household, we usually have piano music playing while we eat dinner. When any of Courtney or David's friends would come, they'd look around and be like, what's up with the music, man? And my kids would be like, I don't know, we've just always had it. That little boy. Anybody relate to a little boy? No, not that one. Any of them. Any little boy, yeah. Boys and girls are way different, yes or no? I mean, by one, a girl's going, hello everyone, how are you today? And a boy is 14 going, way difference going on there in the psyche of a boy and a girl. This little boy was like every other little boy that you've had the opportunity to teach. In fact, some of you may have taught him. Now, before I go to the next 2 slides, I need the house lights up on the stage on. So I don't know if they're up there and hear me, but the lights for the podium, I need them to come back on, please. Make sure that mic is on. What I would like to do today is something I'm never going to get to do anywhere else as long as I speak for the rest of my life, I swear. Having been a graduate of Corbin High School in 1981, my bride the same, both of our children the same. Anywhere else I go with the rest of my speaking opportunities, I'm never going to get to do this. So yeah, you bet I'm going to do it. I'm going to remind you and me, is that proper English? I'm going to remind us that we're going to look at kids in high chairs with cake all over the face, and we're going to look at little kids at elementary school going, I can sing, and you really aren't that good at singing, but we go, oh, that was so good, little Johnny, you're so special. They walk away going, I am special, and you're like, not really, but we won't tell them that. We're going to look at kids and say, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to make a difference. I'm not here to tell. I'm here to teach. And the law of the string is the best illustration I can give you for leadership, because if you take a piece of string and push, 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 all it does is curl up. But if you take that same piece of string and you lead it, it'll follow you anywhere you go. Leadership of the string says, stop telling people, start helping people. And my job in these next few minutes is to bring healing to this district. And to a young man who just this past year decided that, you know what? I tried sports, I tried school, I tried it. And I just got madder. And I got madder. And then he started listening to the wrong voices, and he began to make the wrong choices. And all of a sudden, the day before Mother's Day, I got a phone call and said that Cameron Schaefer's been arrested. He beat his mom near to death. And I said, please tell me you're kidding. And they said, no, I'm not. And I made it my mission to get into that jail to see that young man. It took a few hurdles to jump through to do it, but when I finally got that window of time with Cameron, and we sat on phones looking through a piece of glass, I did not say, dude, what the crap were you thinking? I figured we could cover that in the next few weeks, months, or years he'd be in jail, because at that point, they weren't sure if his mom was going to live yet. How many know what I'm talking about? Here's what you don't know. The day I walked into prison, he said to me, Coach, I'm not that same kid anymore. I looked at him and I thought, talk is cheap. I asked Cameron to do me a favor. Keep your nose out of trouble. Keep your eye on the ball. Stop being a victim and start being a victor. If you do that for me, dude, I'm speaking at the end of August to your family. And there will be someone who would love to see you. Cameron, would you come out? Just try it. It was almost perfect. We have a mic for him. Gary, where you at, bro? Just sign to them. Hold on, bud. I hear someone speaking. Try it again. Try the other mic. No, the other one. You had it. Nick? I hear voices. I hear footsteps. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary.
Better? Okay. My name is Cameron Schaefer. I attended school here in Boardman from kindergarten up until this last school year. And Coach Cahoot says I was the young man that beat my mother the day before Mother's Day. And obviously I had a lot of time to think while I was in jail. And I was thinking, how does a kid that's 18 years old, didn't even graduate high school yet, and he's sitting on the murder pods of the Mahoney County Jail. And I came to thinking, it was the people that I surrounded myself with. Like Coach Cahoot said, wrong voices leads to wrong choices. And then I thought, I'm the scum of the earth. What do people outside this jail think of me now? And then I'm like, I'm the biggest loser in the world. And then I realized, I'm not a loser. And there's not a kid in this school system that's a loser. They're just bad choosers. And I was a bad chooser. My purpose here today, in accepting Coach Cahoot's invitation to speak here, is to say I'm sorry. And ask for the school's forgiveness. I'm sorry to all the teachers and coaches who know who you are that tried helping me the entire way, and I just bit your hands. But I want you to know, I may have failed myself and failed you guys, but I'm not a failure. And I may have disappointed a lot of you, but I'm not done yet. On May 8th, 2009, I was not arrested, I was rescued. You're in the presence of greatness. Thank you.
I asked Mr. Saxton if he would consider holding Cameron's diploma. Most of those who did not graduate, they're destroyed. Is that correct? They're put somewhere. Mr. Saxton said I'd be happy to do that. Then he texted me the other day and he said, could I be a part of this? I said, you always want a part of it, don't you? And I said, I would be honored if you would walk up those steps, shake Cameron Schaefer's hand, and hand him his diploma. I can't talk to you long or I'll start crying. This kid is a little boy in a big boy body. And I'm betting a lot of you might agree that we're still kind of like little boys and girls and big boys, girls and bodies. But he's made a decision to try to keep his nose out of trouble. It's cost him. If you're a Facebook person, which apparently all of you should not be, is that correct, Ms. Fonseca? You would see that all of the kids that were his friends are not his friends because he doesn't do what they're doing. I'm not putting Cameron on a pedestal. He screwed up. But I will tell you this. I had an opportunity not only to reach out to him, but to his mom, his dad, and his brother. Cameron Schaefer's blessed to have an older brother who treated him like a son. Every one of us has an opportunity to put our hand around a kid and say, not a loser, you're a chooser. I'm standing in the presence of greatness, yours and your students. Thank you for your time.